Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, once again. Good evening. Welcome back to this next TechnoLive starter session. I hope everybody is keeping well and staying safe. So, this week we're going to be looking at something a little bit different again. So we looked at Minecraft a couple of weeks ago, but this week we're going to be going back into Minecraft and we're actually going to be doing some hour of code activities. Okay, so we've got some really exciting activities coming up today. I'm going to be here to guide us through those activities and we'll be working through them together. And naturally I will be sharing my screen at the same time. So hopefully we should be able to have a nice look at what these different activities can offer us. For those of you who of course don't know me already, my name is Dan and I work for TechnoCamps as a senior ambassador. And I just want to point out that we have got some help as usual available, as we do every week. We have got some helpers available, so as well as myself, who is available throughout the stream today to help you, I also have my colleague Andy from TechnoCamps Bangor, who is available to assist us in today's activities should you need us for anything. Okay, and the way that you can get a hold of us is if you go on to the TechnoCamps website, which hopefully you should all be able to see on your screens now. Down here in the bottom right hand corner we have got the chat with one of our delivery team facilities. So if you simply click on that option, you'll be taken to some kind of form which you'll have to fill in, and from there then you'll be able to chat with us at TechnoCamps. So if you do need any help with that, please, or with anything throughout this session today, do let us know. Now, of course, in addition to that, I mention every week I mention our Game of Codes Education of the Future activity. We have this available, so throughout today's stream, if you do have any questions about this particular activity or competition that we're running, please feel free to get in touch. So it's a competition where your challenge is to create a piece of software that follows the theme of education of the future, and during the course of doing that I am able to during the course of this particular competition you will have the opportunity to use any programming language that you like, from Scratch, Python, right the way up to using something like a Raspberry Pi or BBC Microbits. Okay, you have until the 19th of February 2021, so with the Christmas holidays coming up, it might be something that you would like to take part in, okay, over the festive period. But remember, there is time during this session to ask us about any questions. Ask us any questions on this particular topic. Okay. In addition, Minecraft is also working alongside another organisation which is running a Minecraft Stadiums of the Future competition. So if anyone does have any interest in wanting to do that, which is themed with or work with the Welsh Rugby Union, then feel free to contact us again using that same resource on the TechnoCamps website. Okay. So that is all that I have to say, the usual housekeeping activities. So I'm now going to switch my screen over to Minecraft once again. So hopefully you should all be able to see that on your screens. And what we're going to be doing is, like I said, we're going to actually be doing some of these hour of code activities. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is go to the hour of code menu. Okay, so once you launch Minecraft for the first time or anything like that, what you can do is log in using your hub account. So if you are based in Wales, you should all have hub login details. So log into the Minecraft Education portal using Hub, and you'll then be taken to this screen here. And the first thing that you need to do is click on the Hour of Code option, which is one of the first things that you should see when your game loads. And you'll see that there are then a total of 3 different options available. So the one that we're going to be focusing on today is the Hour of Code 2019 AI activity. Okay, so there are others that you can work through if you want to. So you don't have to if you don't want to, but I would encourage you, if you enjoyed today's session, that you go back and have a look at maybe some of these other activities. So select the Hour of Code 2019 AI option, and then you will be brought to this screen here where it will tell you a little bit about what's going on during the world. Okay, so in the world, and we will be essentially, as the name suggests, as the description suggests, we've got a village that's being threatened by fire and it needs our help. So we're going to be programming our agent to navigate through the forest and collect data about fires to then help prevent the spread of the fire. Now, we've met the agents before. I believe it was in the last Minecraft session we met the agent, and we were using the agent to program or build a structure in our game. Okay, and so what we'll be doing in this session is using the agent to prevent the spread of the fire. So if you wanted to learn more about what we'd be doing today, you can look at the lesson plan. However, I would encourage you to now click on the Create World button at the top right hand side of the screen, and this will then begin the process of loading in the world template. Okay, this might take a little bit of time depending on how quickly your machine is, but eventually you should be brought to this particular world. Okay, so I'll just give everybody a minute or two to do that, and then we will start off in just a second. Okay, so once you've been brought into this particular world, just a quick reminder, of course, on the left hand side of the screen we have got the controls. Okay, you can hide those by pressing the letter H on the keyboard. I'll leave them up on my screen just in case anybody wants to, kind of remind themselves about what the controls are. Okay, but you can see, of course, that we've got our Minecraft world here, and our current quests are listed on the left hand side of the screen. So we need to go and talk to our researcher. So our researcher is this person here. Okay, now I will point out that I did have a look at this world before, but it's been a while since I've last taken a look at it in full, so I will be working with you during today's live stream to answer these to complete these various tasks, and I will be troubleshooting. Okay, I will probably make mistakes as well, and that's okay. I think one of the things that I'd like to kind of emphasize is that making mistakes is okay, and it's all part of the programming process. Okay, we make mistakes, and then we have to try and debug them, and that is a natural part of the programming process. So I'm going to go up to my research. I'm going to right click to speak to them, and it says that we are here to learn about how to use AI and coding to prevent fires. So we need to open the gate to proceed. Now, we have got the helper bot here as well. The helper bots can assist you if you do get stuck. Okay, I'm going to be trying to avoid using the helper bot today. However, if any of you do get stuck and you're not sure about how to do something, the helper bot is there to assist. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is press C on our keyboard, and this will open up our gate. So we need to program the game to open up the gate. So we're using block-based programming again. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. you can see that we need to open the gate to enter the Fire Research Centre. And once we've built up our code, we simply press this button down here to start running the code. Now, remember, this is using block-based programming, so we're simply dragging and dropping the blocks from our toolbox on the left-hand side of the screen here, and we are snapping blocks together to build up our algorithm, okay, which is of course our sequence of instructions that we are telling the computer how to do things, because we might remember that our computers are very clever, right? Okay, they're very, very clever. However, we need to tell them what to do. So I'm going to use this block to open up the gate. I'm going to pop it into on start. So on start means when I click on this start button down here, and then I'm going to open the door. I'm going to click play, and we can see now that we have entered the Fire Research Centre. So we're off to a good start. And inside of the wooden box is our agent. Okay, so our agent is here, and this is what we're going to be programming today. So we need to talk to the engineer, and the engineer would like us to program the agent to move 3 steps forward. Okay, so we're going to press C on the keyboard again to open up the code builder, and we can see that we need to get our agent to move from the cardboard box to that kind of orange coloured tile. So I believe we need to move 3 steps forward. There is this light bulb symbol here again in case you need to have a little bit of extra help. Okay. However, I'm going to use my agent move forward by number block, and essentially, whoops, got a bit too zoomed in then. We just need to change this number. So we can change the number of steps forward that our agent will move, and I'm going to space it out to being 3 steps. Okay. So there we go. We've now completed that particular quest. Okay, and we can see that the gate is now open for us to move into the next area. So now we have our researcher who we need to talk to. And what's happening here is the agent needs to collect data about flammable materials that could pose a fire hazard. So what we need to do is code our agent to move 4 steps forward and then analyze the dry brush. So the dry brush, of course, will be something that could cause fires to spread quite quickly. So our agent needs to learn about that dry brush, so that way it's possible for us to try and prevent the fires in the future. So again, I'm going to press C on the keyboard to open up my code builder. And you can see this is a little video tutorial showing what we need to do with our agent. Now, we need to get our agent to move forward a total of, I believe it was 4 spaces. So if we can just see just outside of the coding window here, we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces forward. And we also then need to analyze the dry brush, which means that we need to, as well as moving 4 spaces forward, we need to also analyze what's in front of the agent, which is of course the dry brush. So I'm going to say that I would like my agent to move forward 4 times. So it's going to be repeating this action a total of 4 times, and then I'd like the agent to analyze what's in front of them. So this is my algorithm, and we are saying that the agent is going to move forward 4 spaces and then analyze what's in front of them. So if I hit start, there we go. The agent has now moved forward, analyzed the dry brush, and has successfully learned a little bit more about it, so we can now proceed. So when we're climbing a ladder, there's nothing that we need to do any differently. There are no additional controls that we need to select. We just need to make sure that we're nice and lined up with the ladder, move towards it, and then hold down the W key, like we have been before, moving forward, and that will move us then towards the top of the tower where we have another research technician. Okay, so what the technician would like us to do is program our agent to move through the maze. Now there are 2 different paths that we can use. And I think for a little bit of a challenge, I'm going to select the longer path. Okay. So before we do that, we can actually take a look at the two paths. So here they are. So you can see the slightly shorter path on the left, and then we've got the slightly longer path on the right. And I think we're going to choose the slightly longer path. So I'm going to choose the long path. So now the agent has been placed on the longer path, we can now start programming our agent to navigate through the maze. Now you might want to write down the exact number of spaces and the direction in which your agent needs to go before you open the code window. Or what you could do is move the coding window to being on the opposite side of the screen by pressing this button here that looks like sort of two different coloured rectangles, and that will move the window from side to side. Now what we need to do is build up an algorithm, so again building up that sequence of instructions, and what that's essentially going to do is we're going to again get the agent to go and analyse more dry brush. Okay, so let's take a look at the maze that we need to follow. So the first thing we need to do is have our agent move forward 2 spaces. So I'm going to have my agent move forwards, and I'm going to say 2 spaces. And then my agent needs to turn left. So I'm not going to move to the left. I mean, if you wanted to, you could have the agent move to the left. So you could just have them the agent sidestepping to the left, or you could have the agent turn to the left first. So I'm going to go with that option. And then I need my agent to move a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces forwards before then turning right. So I'm going to say agent move forward 4 spaces, and then I'm going to have my agent turn to the right. Now once my agent has moved to the right, we need to move forward another 2 spaces. So we can say move forward 2. And then once again the agent needs to turn to the right so that we're facing in the right direction. So to summarise that process so far, our agent is moving forward 2 spaces, turning to the left, moving another 4 spaces forwards along here, turning to the right, moving another 2 spaces forwards. And now we need our agent to turn to the right again. So we've already said that. And now the agent needs to move forward another 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces again. So again, we'll say 4 spaces forwards. The agent then needs to turn to the left, move forward another 2 spaces so that we get to this point here. Turn to the left once again. Move forward another 2 spaces. Turn to the right. Another 2 spaces forwards again. Turn to the right. And then move 1 space forwards, turn to the left, and move another 2 spaces forwards, before then analysing what's in front of him. Now this algorithm, as you can see, is very, very long. There would possibly be a simpler way of doing it by, instead of having the turning left and turning right blocks, you could simply have the agent just move to the left. That would reduce some code, and of course, although it might be tricky in this algorithm, if you're finding in other algorithms that you have a lot of extended bits of code, you could use looping. So we've come across looping before, where in previous videos and previous live streams, where we were using looping to iterate through bits of code several times. So we could say that we want to move forward and turn left a number of times before then moving on to something else, and that would mean that if we had looping, we would only need to include things like maybe 2 blocks inside of the loop, and all of the rest of the code wouldn't be necessary because you have placed your blocks inside of a looping block. But of course we haven't got that option today, and it might be quite tricky with this particular algorithm to do that. But if I hit start now, hopefully our agent should reach the brush, but let's see if I've made a mistake. Okay, good, so there we go. So we've reached the brush, we've analysed it, and now the agent has reached the end of the maze. So we can now proceed down to the Fire Research Centre, down this ladder. There we go. So we can now go through the maze ourselves. So we'll take the maze that we just took. So there we go. And there's our agent once again. So we now need to go inside of the Fire Research Centre, and we need to have a chat with the head of research, who is here. So, as we mentioned at the start of the stream, the purpose of programming our agent is to predict fire hazards. Okay, so this is our best tool for preventing fires from taking place. So we will need to go inside of the Fire Research Centre, and we'll be using an AI specialist to assist us in training the agent. So AI, artificial intelligence, will be using our agent to help us to understand various fire prevention methods and things like that. Okay, so here's the Fire Research Centre. We're going to go in, and we can see that we have got our agent here. We're inside the Fire Research Centre. They've got a desk here, and we need to talk to the AI specialist. So what this computer is going to do is it's going to tell us about different plants that are potential fire hazards. So whilst we're using the computer monitor, one thing that we would need to do is we would need to determine whether or not something is a fire hazard. So if it's sort of yellow and a bit, sort of yellow and dry, then that's a fire hazard. Okay. So we would press the S button, whereas if something is not yellow and dry and it's quite green and healthy, that's not a fire hazard, so we would click on no. So essentially, what we're going to be doing here is teaching our agent through the means of artificial intelligence what is considered to be a fire hazard and what isn't. So we'll give this a go now. So this to me doesn't look like a particular fire hazard, so I'm going to actually select no, so using a right click. Now we've looked at this dry brush before, that definitely is a fire hazard, so I think we can click on yes. This particular plant looks slightly greener, in my opinion, so I think that's going to be a no. And that looks a little bit like a fire hazard to me as well, so I'm going to say that that is a yes. So we have now successfully trained our agent in what particular plants might be a little bit of a fire hazard. So we now need to go ahead and talk to our scientist. So we now need to put out that training to the test. So we need to have our agent destroy everything that's potentially a fire. So what we will do is open up the coding window. So here we are, and everything that's considered to be a fire we need to actually have the agent destroy. Now what we are seeing here is an example of what I mentioned earlier about loops. So when the program starts, we are instigating this while loop, and a while loop, as we've learned in the past, is a type of loop that repeats over and over and over again whilst a certain condition remains true. Now the condition in this case is what is inside of the while loop here, this orange hazards remain block. And what that's telling us is that this while loop is going to continue to run all of the code that's inside of it whilst there are still hazards remaining. Okay? And what this block of code here is saying is if the agent detects a form of dry brush, so that is of course what we've deemed to be the largest fire hazard, in front of them, then it needs to of course do something with that particular it needs to do something with that object. So that is of course inside of an if statement, which, similar to a while loop, is something that will run whilst a condition is true. So in this case, the agent, like I said, is checking if there is dry brush in front of them. And if there is, it needs to do something with that block. So what I would encourage you to do now is pause the video even if you are watching this live, and maybe have a look at seeing if you can solve this particular problem yourself before I go through it with you. Okay? Okay, so what we need to do is we need to tell our agent that they need to destroy any particular brush that is in front of them. So therefore, if the agent does detect some kind of dry brush in front of them, we need to actually have the agent destroy it. Okay? So I'm going to use this agent destroy forward block in order to do that. And hopefully, if I now run the code, in theory, it should destroy all of the dry brush. So we've got no dry brush, we've got dry brush, so the agent has destroyed it. That's not a bit of dry brush, that's not a bit of dry brush, that's not a bit of dry brush. That is, agent is destroying it. That is, the agent is destroying it. And that one is. And that one is. And there we go. So what has essentially happened is through the use of the coding and the use of all of those conditions, we have told our agent that they need to destroy all of the things that are considered to be a fire hazard. Okay? So now we need to have a chat to the analyst who is here. So now that we have already done some artificial intelligence training with our agent, we now need to tell the agent that if there is a potential area, sort of that is a fire hazard, okay, potential fire hazard location, that the agent can notify the team. So if we alert the team, that will of course, the fire prevention team, that will then hopefully help us prevent these fires from taking place. So we need to code the agent to alert the team if a potential fire hazard location is found on the computer monitor. So let's open up our code builder again. So again, what we're seeing is this idea of a loop, okay, inside of the onStart block. So we have our while loop, and this time the condition is agent look for hazards. So during this particular while loop's execution, the agent will have to be looking for hazards in order for it to actually run. So while the agent is still looking for hazards, this code that's inside of the while loop, so this if statement, will continue to run. And we need to tell our agent that if they find a hazard, that they need to, of course, alert the team. So therefore I'm going to use this alert team block, which is here. Now, one important thing to bear in mind is that we also have this if-else block. Now, although we don't need to use that at the moment, this is a very important block within computer programming as well, because the if-else block is effectively designed so that if the condition that exists with the if statement section of the code isn't true. Okay, so let's just say the agent doesn't find a hazard. They could do something else, and that is what this else section here represents. It's essentially saying if the agent, in this case, whoops, put that back. So while the agent is looking for hazards, if a hazard is found, then the agent is simply going to alert the team. But if this block were to have been used instead, we could have the agent do something else if a hazard isn't found. So it's a way of telling the computer that it should always do something even if the condition isn't true. Okay, but in this case we don't need that. So I'm going to start this code and see if I've got it correct. So the agent is looking at the screen, meant to be. So it's found an area, I think, that could be a potential fire hazard. It looks as if there's a lot of dry brush around that particular area. So therefore we are of course going to need to program our agent to help deal with that fire. And of course we have already noticed from before that our agent has now alerted the fire prevention team so that we can stop the spread of the fire. And one thing to keep in mind is that there is actually other NPCs in the world conducting some other fancy experiments inside of the labs, so that's quite exciting to look at. So we need to now go over to the helipad, which is over here, and we need to talk to the fire captain. So here's our helicopter. Going to go into the helicopter, and we need to talk to the fire captain. So the agent has now learned all about different fire prevention techniques. Okay, so we know that the agent is able to determine what is a potential fire risk. We know that the agent knows how to alert the fire prevention teams in the event of a fire. But now what we need to do is get our agent to actually go to the fire prevention zone to help stop the spread of the fire. So we're going to head over there now. So we're off in the helicopter. So here we are, we've arrived. You can see that we've arrived at the fire prevention zone, which of course we noticed from earlier. Okay, and we can see that there's a lot of this dry brush around. So there's quite a lot of things here that could be a potential hazard. So the fire captain has said that there's a storm rolling in and there's potential lightning strikes on the way. So this means that we need to try and clear as much of that dry brush as possible so that we can protect the village from any potential fires that may occur. Okay? So we need to help clear a line of this dry brush to remove the fire. So once again, we need to do some programming with our agent to try and ensure that we can clear as much of the dry brush as possible, because if we have a look out the windows here, there's a village right behind the where the fire could potentially start. So let's open up the coding window. So once again, we now need to save the village. So once again, I would recommend that in this period that you stop the video or pause the video again to see if you can figure out how to complete this particular challenge on your own before we continue. So I will leave this open up on the screen just for a second or two as well before I continue. Okay. So we have got here our onStart block. Once again, we're seeing the use of a while loop. So we've got the condition set to if hazards remain. So if any hazards are still present, we need to have our agent continue to operate. Okay. And then we need to select the dry, if there is any dry brush in front of the agent. So this is what this block here is saying. So if the agent detects dry brush forward, so if there's any dry brush in front of the agent, then what we need to do is have the agent destroy that dry brush before then moving forward by one space. Okay. So having a look here, we can see that the agent is already starting with dry brush directly in front of them. So I therefore think that the first block that we need to use is the agent destroy forward block. Now, if the agent has dry brush in front of them, they're going to destroy forwards. However, at the moment, that agent isn't going to move because they are stuck in the same place. So therefore, we need to have the agent move forward by one space. So at the moment what is happening is we've got our while loop, which is checking whether or not there are still hazards present, and just keep in mind that we only need to destroy the hazards located on the brown patch of land here, because that's those are the particular parts of the dry brush that could potentially destroy the village. So we don't need to worry about the ones in the background. And if the agent has got any dry brush that's in front of them, they're going to destroy that dry brush and then move forward by one space. So let's see what happens so far. Okay, so at the moment what we're seeing is the agent has only moved forward by one space, but the agent doesn't know what to do if there's no dry brush in front of them. Okay, so currently the agent has destroyed the first bit of dry brush. However, because the next plant, okay, is not dry brush, the agent is unaware of what to do next. So this is again going back to this idea that our computers, although they're very, very clever, they still need a clear set of instructions, so a clear algorithm that outlines exactly what they need to do. Because if they don't get told what they need to do properly, they're not going to function as intended. So let's have a think of what we could potentially put here instead. Now I mentioned earlier that we had the else block. Okay, so let's give that a try. So if you can see on my screen, there's this little plus symbol. If we click on that, it gives us that else block. Okay. Now what I'm going to try and do is see if I place agent move forward by one in there, if that makes a difference. So what's essentially happening now is if our agent is detecting dry brush in front of them, they're going to destroy it and then they're going to move forward by one space. But if the agent doesn't detect any dry brush in front of them, this code, which comes under else, is going to run and the agent is simply going to move forward by one. So this is what the if-else block is doing here. If this condition is true, do something, else do something else. So let's see if this works. Okay, so this is looking quite promising. Okay, so I think that was looking quite promising. The storm seems to have rolled in. There is a fire coming. So we can see that a fire has started and it is spreading quite quickly across all of the different grassland behind where our fire was. But because we had gotten rid of all of that dry brush, it's meant that we have been able to prevent the fire from reaching the village, which is directly behind where that dry brush was. So we have successfully managed to save the village. Okay, so after that we now need to go and talk to the firefighter again. So we have now got we've cleared the path. Okay, we've prevented all of the fire hazards from taking a potential for impacting the village. However, what we could do is now try some other coding activities that could take place using the agent. Okay, so we could do lots of different things with the agents, and what we can spend the rest of this session doing is programming the agent to do more things. So let's go and have a look around the village and see if there's anything that we could potentially do using our agents. So let's have a look at what's happening in these different places, that we might be able to find something that we could do. Let's have a look. So you might notice that there are these different parts of grassland and sort of soily areas where we could possibly plant a few things. So we could do something like that. Let's see, is there anything in here that we could do? Let's have a look at the top of this tower. Is there anything up here? Oh no, it's just a tower. Okay, that's fine. So, you know, have a little bit of an explore, see if there's something that we could do. Let's see, what else have we got here? So there are numerous different places that we can go into. We might be able to find something to do around here somewhere. So what I think we should do for this, for the rest of this session, is have a go at building up our own algorithms. So we've just learned quite a lot of things during this stream so far about various different algorithms that we can build using while loops and if statements, etc. So I think what we should do now is spend a little bit of time actually programming our agent to maybe tidy up some of this grassland area which has been destroyed by the fire. Okay? So once again, I'm going to press C on the keyboard. And what we can see is that there is a reforestation process. Okay, so we are able to actually now program either the agents or ourselves to actually do some planting. Okay, now obviously a lot of this area has been destroyed by fire. So what we could do is spend a little bit of time actually spawning in different animals and different plants to make the area look a little bit nicer. And of course, one way that we could do this is by building up an algorithm. So instead of us programming our agents to do these things, we can actually program our own playable character to do it. So using this onPlayerWalk block, okay, and of course there are lots of different options that you can choose, but I'm going to go with onPlayerWalk. I'm going to build up an algorithm to essentially have my character plant a few sort of new bits of sort of flowers and spawn in different animals. So I'm actually going to destroy a couple of these bits of dry brush. So you can do that by walking up to them and sort of right-clicking on them. Sorry, left-clicking on them. And you can see that that kind of destroys them. Okay. So you might want to spend some time doing a little bit of that first, just to clear a little bit of a path. So you don't have to go through all of them, just clear a few paths. There we go. So let's clear up this front part at least, so that we can plant a few things. So again, it is entirely up to you what you do during this part of the session. This is kind of an opportunity to be as creative as you like with your Minecraft character and how you would like to organize this patch of land. So like I said, I'm just going to destroy this sort of top ledge, all of the things on this top ledge, so that I've got a bit of a clearer path. There we go. Okay, so I'm now going to spend some time building up a suitable algorithm that's going to tell my character what it needs to plant as I'm walking around the top part of this map. Okay, so again, using that onPlayerWalk block, I'm going to use to start off with, I'm going to use the place block, and what I'm going to essentially do is place a particular type of block. So I might want to place maybe some saplings to make the area look a bit prettier, so that when it grows it will be in a slightly larger it'll be a slightly larger tree. Or maybe I'm going to plant a fern. And what this, of course, these symbols mean here with the squiggly lines is the tilde, which is that squiggly line, is essentially saying where that block would be placed in relation to the player. So in this case it means it's going to be placed in the exact same position as the player. So you might remember when we did our Minecraft session a few weeks ago, we talked about the coordinates, and of course it follows the X, Y and Z axes. So if any of you have looked at graphs before, you would be familiar with the X and Y axis. Okay, so Y runs along the side and X along the bottom, and essentially that's what this it follows a similar process here, but it's in relation to where our player is standing. So I'm just going to plant a few ferns to start off with. So hopefully now, as I start walking, it is planting for some reason dry brush, unless these are the ferns, possibly. Let's take a look. Okay, so it should be a fern that it is planting. I'm not sure why it's not planting that. Let's try planting something else like a daisy and see if that works instead. Okay, so we're getting some daisies now, which is good. So let's get rid of all of this dried up ferns. And you can see that as I'm walking, I'm planting lots and lots of daisies. So that very simple algorithm is kind of like a loop in itself, where essentially we're saying, as the player is walking, so that would be our condition, we want to be planting daisies. Now let's plant a different flower. Let's put some poppies down as well. So I'm going to walk over here. You can see that as I'm walking, lots of different poppies are being planted. Let's put some over here as well. So again, using this algorithm, we have successfully managed to plant a couple of different flowers. So let's choose another example. Let's go with blue orchid. So again, now we've got lots of different colours now, so it's already looking a lot better, I think, than what it was before. Okay. And let's choose one more. Let's say we go with let's go with pink tulip. So again, lots of different plants now, and each one of these, of course, is making the place look a little less dark and a little bit brighter. Okay. Now the other thing that we can do is, of course, we can make use of the spawn block. So I'm going to remove that place block now, and I'm going to replace it with the spawn block. And of course the purpose of the spawn block is that we are now able to add animals, or spawn animals, into our world, essentially by planting their, or by laying these specific sort of spawn eggs. Okay. So lots of different types of animals are available, so I'm going to start with, probably not a good idea to use any fish unless we're in the water, so let's place a cat. So I'm going to place one cat. I'm going to take 2 steps forward, and we can see that we have now planted a cat, so there goes the cat. And of course now there are lots of cats, because with every step I take, another cat is spawned into the world. Let's choose a different one. Let's go with llama. So if I take 1 step forward, there's our llama. Quite small. Oh, there's a big one. Oh, there is another really big llama. So again, we can spawn those animals in. Another example, let's say we want horse. Let's put in a horse. Oh, there we go. There are quite a few horses there. Some foals. Let's put in some bees as well. So there are our bees, who are of course being quite attracted to all of the flowers. And let's choose one more animal. Let's go with, put in some sheep. There we go. So we've got lots of different coloured sheep there as well. Okay. So as you can see, our very simple algorithm has done quite a lot of different things within the world. Okay, and that's just by using a few blocks. And if you wanted to, you could combine these blocks together so that you are setting the place blocks in with the spawn blocks, and that would of course be ensuring that you've got lots of different blocks pushed or kept together. Okay. Now, a lot of you might have noticed as well, the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed as well, that we have got these loops in here as well. Now, if we were to use these loops in conjunction with these different blocks, we could have numerous animals spawned in simultaneously. So every time the player walks, we get 4, for an example, of a particular animal. So let's change the animal to being a mule, okay? And we're going to say that when I walk 4 times, there's going to be a total of, say, 4 or 5, let's say 5 mules spawned into the world. Now, this repeat 5 times block is actually similar to a common programming loop that's known as a for loop. So we've looked at while loops, which is of course this loop here, but the repeat loop is similar to, in a text-based programming language, it would be similar to like something like Python. It would be similar to a for loop. So this is where we can specify the exact number of times that we would like our code to run. So a while loop, the purpose of a while loop will be to essentially run code until a condition is no longer true. So the reason that we would use that particular style of loop is because we might not know how many times we need our program to run a certain bit of code. So we're essentially saying that we need our program to run continuously until the condition is, or a certain bit of code needs to run continuously until a condition is no longer true. Whereas if we know exactly how many times we want our piece of code to run, we can use the for loop. And that is what is happening here with this repeat block. We are telling our program that we want it to do something, in this case 5 times, and then stop doing it. However, I've got a feeling that it means that instead of just running the spawn block 5 times and then stopping, it might actually continue to run the code, but placing 5 or spawning 5 mules into the world every time I take a step forward. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we've got 5, so as predicted, with every single step I'm getting 5 mules spawned into the world. So as you can see, we've already got quite a lot of mules. Probably not a good idea that I keep taking steps forward, because otherwise we're going to end up with even more. But you can see here that what is happening is with every step that I take, our mules are going to be 5 mules are going to be spawned into the world, and that is because of our repeat 5 times loop. Okay, so that is a good example there of how we can use looping within our world. Okay, so at the moment, just by doing a little bit of programming, we have been able, and using very simple algorithms, we have, I think you'd agree, completely transformed the world that we have made, okay, that we started off with. You know, we've gone from this completely kind of burnt out sort of area, and we've ended up making something look a little bit more busy and a little bit more picturesque, let's just say, because we've added in a series of animals and a series of different plants. Okay, so that is how we can use different programming concepts within Minecraft, or some simple examples of different programming concepts that we can apply within Minecraft to make our worlds look a little bit different. And of course, I mentioned before when we did our Minecraft session before, there's a donkey here that's got an quite close. I mentioned when we were looking at programming in Minecraft before that there are lots of different things that you can actually do within the Minecraft world. Okay, you can do things like build structures, which can of course be done using the agent. We can spawn in animals, as we've just seen. We can spawn in plants. There are numerous different things that we can do within our Minecraft world. Okay, and this is just a few. This is just an example of that. Now, I believe if you go over to the firefighter again, you can have the firefighter take a picture of the world that you've produced. There you go, so there it is. And if I press the escape key and click on I've finished, you can see that we've actually got our sort of certificate, and we've also got a photograph of the world that we've created. So you can download that if you want to, and then you can exit the lesson. And that will then save. And if you ever wanted to go back to that world to do a little bit more programming, you can hit the play button, and in the View My Worlds menu you should be able to see that we have got the Hour of Code world. So I've got quite a few different worlds here, okay, but the Hour of Code world, which is this one here, is the one that we've worked on today. So if you wanted to go back in that world to do a little bit more programming in that particular area, you could do so. Or of course you could create a completely new world. There are a series of templates available, or you can set up your own. Okay, so you can set up a variety of different settings, which we have looked at as well in previous live streams. I would like to point out as well that before we end today's stream, that there are also numerous different Minecraft tutorials available. So if, for example, you wanted to do a little bit more computer science based subjects in Minecraft, or if you wanted to learn more about other subjects but using Minecraft, you can go to this View Library option, and you can see that there are numerous different options available, okay, from monthly build challenges to various different worlds that you can explore. So these are useful if you wanted to just have a bit of an explore or something like that. You can look at the monthly build challenges. So again, there are numerous different monthly build challenges that you can take a look at. You can see some of them here. We've got build a moat, build a spaceship, build a tree house. Okay, there are lots and lots of different ones that you can take a look at. So I would encourage you, if you have looked at if you are interested, to have a quick look at some of these if you wanted to broaden your Minecraft knowledge and things a little bit further. This one here is looking at redstone, which is a power source essentially within Minecraft. And as well, there are different lessons, and you can see that the lessons have been split out into numerous different sections. So there's science, maths, computer science. So that was our lesson today, was an example of computer science. We've also got language arts, we've got history and culture, art and design, we have got equity and inclusion, social, emotional, and digital citizenship. Okay, so these are all good examples of different types of lessons that you can have a look at, and they're all done in Minecraft. And you can see that if we go into the computer science option, for example, there are even you can even choose the languages that you would like to program in. Of course, the Hour of Code tutorials that we've been working through today are there too. But if you are interested in maybe looking at Python or JavaScript, okay, there are options to do that as well. And you can do this all through Minecraft, and they're all available through Minecraft Education Edition using your hub accounts. Okay. So there are lots and lots of different choices available for you there. But once again, thank you all for joining in on today's session. I hope that you have enjoyed it and that you've hopefully learned something new. Remember to take a look at the Minecraft education resources that are available if you wanted to broaden your understanding in lots of other different subjects. Next week we will be back same time as usual with another TechnoLive session. So that's Tuesday between 4:30 and 5:30. I would like to point out that next week's session will be the last one that we do before Christmas break. So over the Christmas period, we won't be doing any TechnoLive sessions, but I will announce that again next week with the date in which we will be back with the TechnoLive live streams. But like I said, next week we will be streaming as normal between 4:30 and 5:30, and we'll be looking at Gamefruit next week. So if anybody has looked at Gamefruit before, or would like to maybe broaden their understanding of it, or if you're completely new to it, that is what we will be doing during next week's session. Okay, and this will also feed in to the Techno Clubs. So if anybody is interested in wanting to join the Techno Club sessions, it has been advertised on social media and things like that, on TechnoCamp's social media. So if anybody is interested in wanting to sign up to our Techno Clubs after Christmas, we will be I very much like to see you there. So once again, thank you very much everybody, and I will see you all next week.